Hey everyone, Ben Johnson here with Teacher Moolah tonight to talk about your transition year considerations. So let's get started. It's not a presentation on whether you should take one or not, but just a few things for you to consider. So the first thing is the psychology of money or behavioral finance. If you take the transition year and you're essentially getting that double pay, you're probably going to be investing that money, which is terrific. The problem then comes once you do retire, you're going to have the willpower to make yourself withdraw a little bit of that money each year so you can enjoy your retirement. It turns out for many people, once they get that money invested, for some reason psychologically, it's just really painful for them to start then spending that money. So whereas if you take the transition year, you end up getting a slightly higher pension per month, you have no choice. That just goes into your bank account each month, and it turns out to be much more fun and easy to spend that way without worrying about it so much. So from that standpoint, it does make the um, not doing the transition year a little bit more appealing. The other thing is then do the math. Up until recently, I was convinced I was going to do the transition year because who doesn't love the idea of basically getting double pay? Well, I put my numbers into the spreadsheet and actually figured out that I'll make $134,000 more by not working the transition year, just by working another para year. And that will happen slowly over the course of 30 years, but I'll end up with actually $134,000 more in my pocket after the 30 years. Now, I know many of you have already made this decision, so don't regret it. Be happy about the decision that you made. In a lot of ways, it's a good decision because many teachers will work 1 year and then another and another, and pretty soon that goes to 10 years. And they probably would have been better off just doing that transition year because they just keep working forever. And life's too short. You should enjoy yourself while you can, right? So there's lots of pros and cons to the transition year, not the transition year, but just know what you're getting into before you make that decision. Carl Fish can help with some of these numbers. I can help with the spreadsheet. Colorado Para can help you with the break-even numbers. But just know that decision that you're going to make and keep these two things especially in mind. All right, so the next question for you is, why are financial advisors so eager to help when it comes to your transition year? All of a sudden they're coming out of the woodwork. They're offering free workshops with beer and whatever the case might be. It's not because of the kindness of their heart, I can tell you that. While they might appear to be the nicest person that you've ever met and the smartest person that you've ever met, their motivation is a financial one. And this is why. You and your spouse have worked really hard the last 30 years to build up a nest egg, and it's really the dream situation for them because that was the hard work. Now, if they can get you to agree to work with them, and when you retire, roll all of that hard-earned money into their company's brokerage, into a rollover IRA, suddenly they're going to be getting this thing each year called an AUM fee. And that's a 1% fee that gets charged to you every year, whether the portfolio is doing good or not. 1% sounds like small potatoes, right? 1% times 1 million turns out to be $10,000 a year, which is quite significant, especially considering that you can only pull about 40,000 a year out of that 1 million in order not to run out of money. It's called the 4% rule. Normally you could keep that 40,000 and spend it on yourself, which is great. But now if you're paying this 1% fee or this 10,000 to the financial advisor, suddenly now you've only got 30,000 to spend. And just think about it yourself. Like, would you rather have 40,000 or 30,000 to spend in retirement? And I think most people would want the 40,000. And the good news is there's some ways that you can manage this money with some support from people without paying that 1% AUM. You can use something like a target date fund. You can use a life strategy or a balanced fund from Vanguard or Fidelity, and that makes the portfolio for you. It allocates your bonds and stocks for you automatically. You can use a robo-advisor through either of those companies, again, for a lot less money than it would cost to pay a financial advisor. And then finally, if you use a company like Vanguard, you can use their personal advisory service, and that's just a 0.3% charge to work with a real human to make these decisions if you like being able to talk to a real person. So there's good professional ways to do this with a lot less cost, or you can learn how to do it yourself by reading some books, and that's the route that I've taken. You can also find a certified financial planner, which is sort of the gold standard. And sometimes they'll work with you on a flat fee basis or an hourly fee basis. And while it could be expensive initially, it's a one-time charge. They're not leeching 10,000 bucks off your account every single year. So even though it might be a few $1,000s up front, you'll save a lot of money over the course of your retirement. In the worst case scenario, you'll get involved with a real crooked financial advisor, and they might convince you to do a lump sum out of your pension. Say your pension's worth 500,000 as a lump sum. They somehow convince you that you shouldn't take the monthly payout from Para, that instead you should take that and invest it in their brokerage. Again, why are they doing that? Well, that's another 500,000. So that might be $5,000 more each year that they'll get from you. Or they might get you involved with a really crappy whole life insurance policy that's totally inappropriate for this sort of thing, or a really crappy annuity, and they're making even more money on you. So if anybody starts talking about doing a lump sum out of your pension, the red flag should go up, and you need to get Carl Fish's book and get a second opinion on that move before you make it, because you can't undo it once it's made. And then the final thing is, if you work with a financial advisor, they're typically going to put you in these high fee mutual funds, actively managed, and they often will have high expense ratios. They may have front end loads, back end loads. Ultimately, that's money that's coming out of your pocket, going to the advisor, going to their brokerage, going to their insurance company. Instead, if you use a company like Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, they're going to hopefully put you into index funds that have really low fees, and you're just going to keep a lot more of that money in your pocket over the course of the 30 years. And maybe it never gets spent, and you're able to give that to your children. So that's an awesome thing to think about. All right, in terms of back to those three considerations, the first one is health insurance. Unfortunately, when you do the transition year, your district is going to give up your health insurance, which is a bummer, but you have some options. And the first one is the Colorado marketplace. Definitely get a quote there. Most people I'm talking to right now, their family income is low enough that they actually get a pretty good price from the Affordable Care Act, the marketplace operated by the state of Colorado. So definitely get that quote. Another option is if your spouse has a job and they've got insurance, they might be able to add you for not a whole lot more. So in retirement, my wife could add me to her insurance at CSU. Our kids are already on that policy. It wouldn't cost any more money. And so that's the option that I'll probably pursue in retirement or in a transition year if I end up going that route. And then finally, there's Colorado Paracare, which I've heard is just slightly more expensive than the marketplace, but worth getting a quote. I think their prices are coming down a little bit this year, if I remember a blog post that I read. So get a quote on all three of those, figure out which one of the benefits meets your needs the best at that price point. All right, so then the second consideration is taxes. So if you do this transition year, which is great, all of a sudden your family's income is going to go up significantly, and that might put you into a higher tax bracket. And so that might mean that instead of keeping all of that money yourself, you're going to turn over 25% of it to Uncle Sam. So if you can minimize that or optimize your taxes, that would be ideal. And so I've got the 2022 marginal tax brackets in front of me. My strategy is generally to try to keep my family in this 12% bracket, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but once you start getting into this bracket, any money that you make in these brackets then is charged at this higher marginal rate. So I'm up fine paying 10 and 12% taxes, but then once it jumps up to 22 and 24, boy, I'd really prefer to defer paying those taxes until I'm retired and maybe back into this 12% tax bracket naturally, right? Or at least I can withdraw in a way that I can minimize the amount of money that's being taxed in these higher brackets. So how can you accomplish that? Because you're getting all this extra money through your transition year, right? So the goal for me is to get my family back into this 12% bracket. So what tools can you use to do that? Well, the two best tools are by deferring these taxes by using the 401k and the 457b. Now, if you're 50 or older, you can take 27 out of each of these and defer your taxes by what does that come out to be? 54,000. You can defer $54,000 worth of taxes a year using those two tools. So quite easily bringing you down from one of these higher tax brackets back into this 12% bracket. And then you might ask, well, if there's some money left over in this 10 and 12% bracket, what would I do then? And that's where that Roth IRA comes in, or the Roth 401k. So my strategy is generally use these traditional accounts when you're in these higher tax brackets until you get down to that 12%. And then any money that you've got left over here, then go ahead and use that Roth IRA, the Roth 401k. And if that's making your head spin a little bit, you can ask questions down in the comments. Certainly pick up a copy of Carl Fish's book. But if you can really maximize those marginal tax brackets using the 401k and the 457b, that's awesome. But that's another reason the financial advisors want to get involved. They typically have the 403bs with the higher fees. They really want you to sock that money away using really any of these, because they know their ultimate goal is after that transition year to have you roll any of these retirement plans into their IRA so that they can start siphoning that 1% off the top of your hard-earned investments. So anyways, just know that these are awesome accounts. My wife and I have been maxing these out for the last few years to really build up our nest egg. And if you're watching this and you're approaching retirement, try to make that a goal to start maxing these things out, both of them if you can. It's an awesome deal, and these both have super low fees. The 457 is really appealing because you can access that as soon as you separate from your employer at any age. So I'll be just probably 51 when I retire, and so I'll be able to access this early, and whereas I might have to wait until 55 or 59 and a half, we can start using these right off the bat, which is awesome. All right, and then that third consideration is just that you're not going to get any sick or personal days. Not a big deal. Just need to mentally be prepared that if you're sick during that transition year, you want to take a little vacation. That's just going to get subtracted straight off of your paycheck. So just be aware of that. Just accept that. And I should go back to this and just mention also the unused sick pay leave. That might be like $75 a day, and so you'll also be getting that as a one-time pay, and so you can start to see how you might easily end up in one of these much higher tax brackets with all that extra pay. So I'll just leave with that note of really utilizing these deferred tax accounts those last few years of work. And then if you've got money in that lower tax bracket, then certainly use that Roth IRA when you're down in this 10 and 12%, because paying 10 and 12% taxes on your Roth IRA it's not going to get any better than that. So you might as well take advantage of it. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, post those down in the comments. Look forward to hearing what people think, and certainly let us know if we can help. Thanks for watching.